So anyway, so that's the caveats here is that the rankings are done for a standard 12-team, one quarterback league, PPR scoring, as if the NFL is today with some, baseline knowledge, but there's a lot of stuff that's unknown that you just sort of have to say like, all right, well, I'm just going to do it as if it is today, right? As if the league is today versus, again, when you start ranking like the Steelers guys, is Rodgers back next year? Like there's just a lot of different unknowns, and that's I think the biggest challenge of ranking, before the 2025 season's even over for 2026.
Neck Brace Nation says, my New Year's resolution, never drafting quarterbacks before round 6. So don't worry, we're going to get to those. But as we see Bijan Robinson at the top of the rankings here, you mentioned you don't expect necessarily Algier to be back, Matthew. If he was, does that dethrone Bijan from the top spot, or he still stays there?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, I think Tyler Algiers, the Tyler Algier being there is an argument for Bijan Robinson, not an argument against. So Tyler Algier, was a vulture at the goal line. They used him a lot. Bijan Robinson saw less than 40% of the Falcons' goal-to-go rushing attempts this season. Think about that. Less than 40% of their goal-to-go rushing attempts, Bijan Robinson did not. He got like 39%, right? And yet, despite that, despite having less than 40% of the goal-to-go rushing attempts for the Falcons, he's still the number 2 running back in fantasy football. He had 19 different games with 20 or more fantasy points over the last 2 years, right? That's 6 more than any other running back. So there's both a floor and a ceiling there to Bijan Robinson. Over 2,200 yards from scrimmage this year. He's averaging over 140 a game. That was with Michael Penix in and out of the lineup. Kirk Cousins comes in. Drake London was banged up. I think this offense gets better in the offseason, whether there's a coaching change or not. But I just think with Bijan Robinson, there's both a floor and a ceiling. And the last thing I'll just say in terms of overall theory, and I say this all the time, you don't have to finish as the number 1 player in fantasy football to be worth the number 1 ranking. Again, we talk about this. You can't win the league in your first round. You can lose it at number 1 overall, especially in the first round overall, but generally, especially at number 1, you want floor. You want a guy that, assuming no injuries, is going to be a top 5 fantasy running back, right? Or a top 5 player at his position. And my argument on Bijan Robinson is that, the fact that he's able to be this good with Algier there tells you about the floor. And if Algier moves on, which we do expect, sky's the limit for Bijan Robinson. That's why he's my number 1 player.
Jay, we see the Colts banner in the background, proudly represented, and Jonathan Taylor obviously pretty high up in these rankings as well at number 5. How much does their quarterback situation being a little foggy affect Taylor's outlook going into next season for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that the key is that they're not going to go in with the same situation that they have right now with Phil Rivers and Riley Leonard being the top 2 quarterbacks. I think that we saw with Daniel Jones is that you don't need an absolute superstar quarterback to allow Jonathan Taylor to have, number 1 running back in fantasy type potential, which is the trajectory that he was on before Daniel Jones went down. So I would imagine that Jones is probably going to come back and that Anthony Richardson is still there. If Richardson were to become the starter, I think that hurts Taylor in terms of touchdown equity, but also we've seen the value of running quarterbacks and how they open up running lanes for running backs. I would be more concerned with Taylor, not so much about the quarterback situation, which will be improved from what it is right now, but just the fact that he has put so many miles on his body this year, and even last year where, he had a huge amount of carries and he's, inching towards his late 20s. I think he is a bit more of an injury risk than Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, the 2 running backs that Matthew has ahead of Taylor. So that would probably be my concern more than the quarterback.
How do you feel about JT, Matthew? Obviously you have him at 5. And it doesn't seem like there'll be a ton of change. We think Daniel Jones will be back. It's just kind of business as always with this unit.
Yeah, I just have to sort of, assume that, the Colts are very smart and they have a window here. And whatever their situation is next year, whether it's Daniel Jones or not, it's not going to be what it was at the end of the season where they had Riley Leonard and Phillip Rivers at the end of the year, right? And even in that situation where you have 44-year-old off of the couch from 5 years ago, Phillip Rivers under center, And then, obviously Riley Leonard's going to start next week. That's the announcement that came out recently. He still averaged over 84 yards a game. Still was running back 16 on a points per game basis. So my point is like, if you're telling me that's the floor, that in a scenario where they were so beat up and they're literally starting an immobile 44-year-old quarterback, and he's still able to give you mid-tier RB2 production, where if he gets another touchdown here or there, like, I don't know. I agree with you. Wear and tear on a running back, that's true with any of them, right? I mean, like that was I guess I just sort of feel like that was the reason why Christian McCaffrey dropped this year. And that was, I think, one of my best calls this year is in the preseason, we were like, I'm firmly on the Christian McCaffrey stays healthy this year. Like that, I just believe that, I know so many people were burned last year because he was the number 1 overall player. But, McCaffrey just has been as healthy as any running back with that kind of usage. Jonathan Taylor is a professional. He, friend of the podcast. He keeps his body in shape. I understand the concern, but obviously it's not enough for me to drop him outside my top 10. He's my number 5 player overall.
Troy asks, would you still start Taylor this week if we have a Week 18 championship?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to. What are your
options?
A better option
than Jonathan Taylor? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do think, Jay, the other thing I will say is that, again, I mean, listen, you're a shoe man, but I do feel like assuming Daniel Jones is back or that they have a as good or better solution at quarterback for the Colts, like this is an offense that one of the issues with Jonathan Taylor has been, teams like sort of stack the box. But one of the reasons why he was so good this year is they were able to get Jones on the move and they added weapons. For the longest time, it was Michael Pittman and Hope. And now you add Tyler Warren. Alec Pierce has emerged as a legitimate, not just a deep threat, but like a guy who's a complete wide receiver. Josh Downs is a nice piece. Like they suddenly have a lot of pieces in this offense that you suddenly, I think, will open up more rushing lanes for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing with Taylor too is that the last time that we saw this offense fully functional was when Taylor had almost 300 yards against the Falcons in Berlin. And then Jones immediately after that fractures his leg and he couldn't do anything against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs understood that. And then they played the Texans defense where Taylor didn't have a huge game because it's the Texans defense. Like, we have not seen Jonathan Taylor not be Superman when he has a healthy, solid starting quarterback. And I think that the past couple of weeks, like, it's just so predictable, the run game when Phil Rivers is a quarterback playing 95% of the snaps out of shotgun. So I wouldn't hold that against JT. And yeah, this offense was breaking records the first 9 or so games of the season. And in terms of the supporting personnel, like, it's still Shane Steichen, who we think is an elite play caller. It's still a solid offensive line that's not so old. Still Tyler Warren and Josh Downs and, Alec Pierce, I expect they're going to bring back. And we'll see about Michael Pittman, who's the only one of that group who's, remotely a veteran type of figure. So I think this offense, if Jones is back and is even 85% of the guy that he was when he was healthy this year, then I would expect this to be an elite offense again, and that Taylor is a superstar if he's healthy.
And just one last point, Jay, to everything you said about how great this offense was. The Colts were running so hot in the first 8 weeks of the season. I don't want to out them out. I have a good friend who bet an enormous amount of money on the Colts to win the division. I think he also has some bets on them making it to the Super Bowl as well. So massive amount of money my friend lost. He's a smart guy, but just to give you an idea of how good that offense was looking, because this guy put honestly his kids' future education in on these bets. And so it just gives you an idea of just how good that offense was early on.
Yeah, I've heard that guy doubled down on the Niners needing to win this Saturday night. So if they go down, I'll see you guys in hell, basically.
I like the reveal at the end there. I'll see you guys. We never said who it was, Jay, just to be fair. Speaking of those Niners, Christian
but to
McCaffrey,
be fair, I'll definitely be in hell. So I will see you there, Jay. Yes, of course.
You guys have fun.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.